The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist.
It's a quiet taste. Part 3. Listen.
The angel called us God's hands. We can see the demons, while other people
The greatest trick the devil ever did was make the world think he didn't exist. The deceiver, truth turned to a lie. Lie turned without any proof. Her symbols front their eyesight. You see it with your eyes, but with terms called conspiracy theories, how they disguise. They even make it comical, nothing to take urgent, and subtly seduce you to worship be Satan's servants. Hand signs and sayings and speech to show allegiance. And some are so bold and so blatant to claim, demon, do as thou will. Whatever you feel, whatever you like, whatever you do in secret or dark would eventually come to light. There ain't no hiding it. I noticed it, I'm exposing it. Ain't no more concealing it. In privacy, you're holding it. The battle's in effect, good versus evil, and separation from the wicked seed in God's people.
The end of the world is coming. It's near. There are demons among us. The devil has released them for the final battle. It's being fought right now. But nobody knows it except us and others like us.
Hey yo, you wanna keep knowledge far from the public, then put it in the book. Because our people rarely look. The information source, gossip and rumors. It's only plaguing to your minds, spiritual tumors. They say you are what you eat, not just physically, also mentally. And most of your brains are malnourished, live unhealthily. Lust, envy, jealousy, cover this mixed with murder. But think they live good, cause they vegan beyond burgers. It's beyond me, No laughing matter, smite the shepherds and the sheep will scatter. Check the data, mockery of our grammar. Most men are in the slammer. Long way from eating angels, food, feasting, dining on manna. Used to hear from my grandma. The end times, all the things to look for coming to cane. You don't listen to the warnings, only you have the blame. The war been started, I'm talking about internal. You won't make the transition on fire, you burn eternal.
We've been chosen by God. He will protect us. He's given us special jobs to do. We don't fear these demons. We destroy them. We pick them up one by one and we pitch them out of this world. That's God's purpose for us.
Hold on a second. Here we go. What do we see here? Now, science would tell you this was done naturally. You have a stem of what seems to be like some type of rock, and then another flat rock on top of it. What does that look like? Is this nature, or was that something else? Again, remember last week presenting the information on the giant trees that were cut down. I have couple other pictures tonight to validate that point, and you'll see it for yourself. But knowing that there were giant trees and a lot of things that were gigantic, what do you see right here? That is not a natural formation, and there's tons of these around the planet, across the planet, should I say. So let's move on. Let's get the next one. So for those that's wondering, that is no doubt, when you look at it and research these, if you do your due diligence, as they say, and go and look up more of these type of pictures, you'll see that they are definitely petrified giant mushrooms. Oh, I'm crazy now. I'm on one right now. I know that. I know that's what's being said. Oh, he's tripping. He's definitely on something. But you again, if you see it, praise God. If you don't, praise God. Let's move on. This is supposed to be rock formations, supposed to be by nature. So obviously you can see that it's on its side. The picture's on its side. What do you see? Yeah. What do we see? If you see it, praise God. If you don't, praise God. Again, you have your liberty. For those that have their eyes open and see, what do you see? What do you see? Again, all the information that has been presented so far with the secret societies, and the elites of this world, and the different occultists, and then going into Rome and the different agendas and the faces of the agendas, all this intertwines with one another. And it's one chain of things that lead to another that all stem from a source. And it goes back to the beginning. There were giants in the earth, giants from what we read in Genesis chapter 6, chapter 5, and chapter 6, and Enoch chapter 6, and Jubilee chapter 5, and other books that give account, but most with the biblical accounts, it tells you clearly that there were giants that came about, and these giants came about from spiritual forces, angelic forces, leaving their natural state, as it says in the book of Jude, to take wives of all that they chose, and the offspring that came about from those unions were giants. Now, anybody think that is far-fetched? There's tons of evidence biblically to show you that angels can absolutely transform and change their state into physical form, which is nothing complex or anything difficult for the creator to do himself, as the king was born in the flesh, manifested in the flesh as a human being. So it is not a hard task to be done. It's just that they were not supposed to do it. People have this misconceived notion thinking that the angels were created sinless and they will not sin. That is far from the truth. Far from it. They have free will just as humans have free will, which is why angels told men when they bow down to them to get up, because I'm your fellow servant. I serve the same authority that you serve. So anyway, there's proof all throughout. We see in Genesis 19 when 3 men came to visit the patriarch Abraham. And 2 went into the land of Sodom, which clearly we know those that read were angels. And we read about the patriarch Jacob wrestling with an angel, but it labeled him a man that he wrestled with, but it was an actual angel. We read about the father of Samson and his mother and them meeting an angel and offering to prepare food for him, and he jumped in the fire and disappeared, and they knew he was an angel. And in the Apocrypha, you read about the archangel Raphael, who appeared to Tobias as a man. And then he confessed to him and told him who he was. Then, I mean, so much more, but the ultimate one is the Apostle Paul. He said, be careful how you treat strangers, because sometimes you entertain angels unaware. So they can absolutely do that, but it's the point of whether they're going to stay within a righteous order or are they going to do something that they're not supposed to do, like these fallen ones did in dealing with women and bringing about giants. So there absolutely were giants in the earth. And not giants like someone 9 feet tall or something. I'm talking hundreds of feet tall. Whether you believe it or you don't, but it existed. And we're looking at a picture right now. If you flip it to the right, you'll see like rock formations, supposedly, but looking at it now, what do you see? What do you see? Now you have cases today of people that are called quote unquote giants, but they have it's basically like a disability. Give me 1 second. Okay. Let me share this real quick just to get an idea, because again, it wasn't this. It was not this. So let's look at this real quick. Gigantism is a very rare condition that happens when a child or adolescent has high levels of growth hormone in their body, which causes them to grow very tall. It is caused by disease or disorder in those parts of the endocrine system that regulate growth and development. Excessive growth hormone is almost always caused by non-cancerous benign pituitary tumor. Gigantism is treatable, but early diagnosis is crucial to prevent. So again, this is not what the giants had. Praise God, all glory to God. Thank you. They didn't have that. And I'm gonna share some pictures of some very, very tall people that existed and were, I don't want to say existed like, you know, is something like far out, like hundreds of years ago, but it was a lot more prominent, should I say, a little over 100 years ago, where you had a lot of very big, tall people that would be called giants, but they didn't have gigantism like you would see today. Someone that is quote unquote 8 feet tall and, you know, they look deformed and such. Not these people, men and women. Now I'm gonna show that as we go on. So here's another one. You tell me what you see. Now that's the picture plain, right side up, like as taken. This is in Norway, by the way. Right. Absolutely. Peace, brother. Peace. Right. Well, these did well in the beginning, before Goliath, the giants was way bigger. They would call them quote unquote titans. That's what they would be labeled as, titans. Peace, family. Peace. Salute. Godspeed. Thanks for tapping in. Yeah, they were more titans. These guys was immense. And there's some quote unquote scholars that say Adam was about 90 feet tall himself. Again, that's speculation because no one was there to see Adam, but everything was bigger back then. That's why we have the examples of during the time of Moses in the book of Numbers, where it took 2 men to carry a cluster of grapes. So everything was bigger. And in the Apocrypha, it tells you also that there was a time when everything was bigger and lasted longer, and it was, the time was going to come, it was going to decrease. Yeah, that's definitely what I see. That's why we call this, do you see what we see? Yeah, right. So yeah. Take a look at that again. And you tell me what you see. Let's continue on. And like I said, I'm gonna share a video with y'all after I present the rest of these pictures. I'm going to present this video of a gentleman that's on YouTube channel that I follow, that I'm subscribed to, should I say, and he has a lot of dope information. So here's another one. What do you see? What do you see? Interesting. Thank you for that, bro. I don't know, man. You tell me. Do you see what I see? Do you see what we see? That's what it appears to be. There's so much things out here, man, that you know, we see regularly that we never even had the thought to question. All right, let's look at this one. No, absolutely not. Absolutely. But however, it is good to research and to look through all them things to see what lines up and what corroborates, you know. So, but what do we see here? Science will tell you this is natural. This is a rock formation, and after millions of years, what do we see? I know what I see. What do you see? That's exactly what I see. Absolutely. That is exactly what that image is actually labeled. But science will say that's rocks and Big Bang and all this other stuff as they, you know. I will get that for you. I have it. But when I do the conversions, sometimes it takes it away. So what I do with all my presentations, when the stream is ended and I go into the description and, you know, describe what the video is about or what have you, I'll definitely leave the location of the pictures that I did not verbally give a location to. So I will have that. All right. Let me get the next one. Now this is in New Mexico. So with the last series, the part one to this one last week, the last week's episode, I presented the mesas, which are basically giant trees. And I presented giant trees that exist now on the West Coast, the sequoias, and when they cut down, and how the stumps look is no different from what a quote unquote mesa is. and I presented various ones. There's one called the Devil's Tower, I believe, in Wyoming, if I'm not mistaken, and you can see clearly that that was something that was cut down. There's a few in South America. They're all over the earth, all over the planet. But this one is in the States and is in New Mexico. And you can see that is a giant's axe from a tree that was cut. Do you see that? There it is by itself. How does that just stay there like that? Shouldn't it have toppled over and tipped? That means the front part of that, what's supposed to be a stone, because it is petrified, was the blade, the heavier part. That's why it's up there so balanced, and it wouldn't tip over. In the book of Enoch 66, it talks about the angels being sent to cut down trees. Righteous angels, not the ones that had fallen, were sent down to cut down trees. Again, if the waters had to go above the highest mountain to ensure that all flesh on the face of the planet Earth was wiped out. Because now you have some scientists and people saying that the Earth wasn't a planetary destruction, it was local with the flood. That it wasn't a planetary destruction, it was local, which is utter nonsense. So if the waters exceeded above the highest mountain, there was not anything being left for any escape attempts to be made, especially by these giants. So that included trees. They had to be knocked down. So that is a petrified axe on top of a petrified tree stump. If you don't see that, that's cool. All right. So now, let me start getting into these people that were around over 100 and plus years ago, and they were normal. They don't have this, what I just presented with gigantism, with this disease, where they're deformed and such. And you're going to see that with these pictures, even down to the way they're dressed. Men and women. So here we go. Here we go. Although some may be quote unquote illustrations, it is based on a real situation is based on real people. And I have real pictures of real people. Nothing doctored, nothing Photoshop stuff. You can look up yourself. Well, this was in 1837, I believe, this image here. 1837. You see small women in the background, regular sized women, and then you have these two giant women. Okay. Let's go on. It's in Russia. It's an average height man. That's not a little person or a quote unquote midget. That's an average size man to the left. Anywhere from 5'8", maybe to 6 feet tall. Anywhere between that. The individual next to him is dressed in some sort of uniform with a headpiece, and he's normal. He's not standing lopsided, deformed, or anything. Regular. Let's continue on. It's a woman. Where I got it from, the source said it was from Russia also, but I don't know. But look at the evidence. She doesn't look hunched. Look at her face. She doesn't look hunched or deformed or anything. This was an article in the New York Journal. If you zoom in, it's the early 1900s, highlighted in the yellow. And it shows how big men were in an illustration compared to Chang the giant. If I'm not mistaken, I have a real picture of Chang that I also have to present. But that's from the New York Journal. Let me show the picture of Chang the giant, because I have a picture of him, actual picture. There he goes. That's who's depicted in the illustration next to a more bigger giant A far larger, taller giant. That's the image, illustration image. His name is Chang Wu Gao. Chang Wu Gao. Okay. Yes, I have. Yep. This guy's reaching to the second floor. He's standing right at the window of the second floor. This is within our quote unquote timeline. This is very early 1900s. And the other pictures and I presented was 1800s, like mid to late 1800s. And you look up the first camera, it tell you the first camera was made in 1816. So they've been taking pictures for quite a while now. Let's continue on. I think this is another illustration. Yep. It's another illustration. But again, look at what we're looking at. You have a man standing up, shaking hands with a woman in the second floor window. I kind of had the same conversation with a brother yesterday. And yeah, look at this. So look at that, and then you look at that image. All right. Continuing on. It's an illustration of the Grand Sultan Ahmed III, Emperor. Yeah, so much we've been lied to about. This is an interesting figure right here, because I'm gonna say the name that he's labeled as, but he has multiple names, this guy. So this is a statue of Gilgamesh, who is also documented as being Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. Gilgamesh is Nimrod. That's one of his other names. And you can see how big he is and he has a lion, a full-grown lion as a pet. That's a mane around the lion. And if you look at his wrist, his right wrist and his left wrist, it looks like he's wearing some type of device, some type of watch or something. Which is one of the reasons why the flood came, because of the technology that was in the earth and what was being done with it. Even though we know Nimrod is post-flood, but he continued with a lot of things pre-flood. Let's get the next one. So there's another statue of him. Again, this supposed to be, was labeled Gilgamesh, and Gilgamesh is another name for Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. And you can see this one clearer, how big he is, or how big he was. He has a full-grown male lion for a pet. He got him in a headlock, carrying him like nothing. The mighty hunter before the Lord. If you research, there's statues of him on his knee, on one knee, with a bow and arrow facing up at the sky, as signifying that he's fighting against God, that he's shooting arrows at God. So Gilgamesh is another name for Nimrod. And he has other names aside from that. Please research it. Go check it out, please. It's the guy that was over Babel, the Tower of Babel. All right. Can you imagine? Just look. He has a full-grown male lion as a pet. He got him in his arm tight. That's a mane. That's not a cub. That's not a little baby lion. That's a full mane around that lion's face. Here's another one. This is a German woman. They have her marked at 7 feet 2 inches. A woman. She don't look one bit deformed. Right now, the tallest woman in the world, she looks deformed. Let me see if I can find her real quick. See if I can find her real fast. Okay, I think I found her. Give me 1 second. Let me show you this, the tallest woman in the world now. And she is 7 feet and a half inch. So this German picture got her by 1.5 inches, right? Let's look at this woman. Let me share this with you right now. Let's look at this woman. So we're looking at that German one, right? Now, let's look at this one. That's the tallest woman in the world now. Look at her face. Look at her. You could look her up. Her name is Rumya Gelgi. She's Turkish. In comparison to this, yeah. In comparison to this, and she got it by 1.5 inches. Let's continue on. Look at that footprint. That footprint is almost as big as this girl that's there, this lady that's there. So you could imagine how tall that giant is. Whoever it was that left that footprint there. The scientists will argue and say that is from erosion or some type of nature. Yep. A couple more to present, and then I'm going to share that video. Got a couple more females. This is an illustration of the giant Amazon queen. Nine feet tall, basically. Even with the illustration, you don't see no type of deformity or anything wrong. Who are these people? Where did they go? What happened to them? Who are they? Where did they go? What happened to them? The giants that we read about in Genesis and in Enoch and the things that they were doing is what brought about the flood. It said they abused fish. Just think about that. They abused fish. These people that I presented in these with these pictures of the presentation tonight, they don't give that impression of that. It looked like this Amazon queen. She looks dignified. So again, they were very big in the beginning, aside from the actual giants that were titans. As I mentioned in the beginning, that it's speculated that Adam may have been like 90 feet tall. And we read about other people in the scriptures that were tall, like the king of Israel, the first king of Israel, Saul, even the Holy Messiah, the king, tall, very tall. So where did they go? What happened to them? I don't know. I'm asking. And so much other history and things that have taken place, excuse me, within the past 200 years that we've been seriously lied to about. The entire planet has been lied to about and kept in the dark about. Things have been hidden. Things have been purposely destroyed to hide evidence of what? But why hide this, that people like this were around? All right. Obama, the African giantess. Tons of evidence, man. Get this video lined up for y'all. I'm gonna share it with you. Give me 1 second. Okay. One second, y'all. Okay. All right, I want to share this video. All right. I want to share this video with y'all. It's a channel on YouTube here called My Lunch Break, and the brother is on point with the information that he presents, and he does it weekly. I'm subscribed to the channel, and if you're interested so far with the information that's been presented here with the old world buildings and stuff, he has a lot of information, a lot of resources that he provides for people to see the lies that's been told. And this video right here is top notch, like evidence proving that there's been a very big deception and we've been lied to. You know, we pass by these buildings and walk by these buildings and these structures, and we don't even realize and see it for what it is, and think to question, like, how were these things built with the date that's given, and is dirt roads and horse and buggy, and you don't even think to put your finger to the logistics, like where did they get the wood from, the stones, and some of these buildings is all stone. So anyway, this is a really, really good video that exposes the lie. So I wanted to share with y'all. It's about 20 minutes. I'll be forwarding it in the event of an ad or any commercial that he has on it, and just getting to the points of it. So I'm gonna share it right now. And again, his station is called My Lunch Break. You can like and subscribe to his joint, and he has a lot of good information.
The Union Pacific Passenger Station, Wyoming, USA, was constructed in a single year, from 1886 to 1887. Are you sure? Van Brunt and Howe are pinned as the architects that would get a Palace train station completed in just 1 year. In the 1880s, in Cheyenne, Wyoming, the problem for the mainstream narrator is that we're very good at this now. We already know that Cheyenne, Wyoming has been tracking their population. And when we go back to 1900, we can all see that they only had 14,087 people. So how many people were in Cheyenne, Wyoming in 1886? 14 years earlier. We've found it. In 1890, this location only had 11,000 people. In 1880, there was basically nobody even in this town. 3,400 people. Remember, there are no power tools until 1895. We're just getting started and this story's already in shreds. What were they thinking, telling all of us this nonsense? Did they really think that we'd never figure this out? Or is this a game to see who can find it? Let's ask their AI how logistically possible this really is. Let's see if the mainstream history that we.
So this is interesting because now he's gonna ask AI a question and present the information to see if this is logistically possible. And let's see the answer that's given.
We've all been taught in the school systems the same story that is still being taught today. Let's see if it really has any legs to stand on at all. And put it up against their own AI, ChatGPT. Considering the Union Pacific Depot in Cheyenne, Wyoming, was built between 1886 and 1887, and the population of Cheyenne was only 3,456 people in 1880. The logistics of constructing such a grand structure in just 1 year raises some serious questions. Oh, really? There are, of course, challenges to consider. Before we go on, we all need to remember that asking questions is exactly how you find the truth. And for so long, we all just read these stories and just accepted whatever we were told. And we never thought that anybody would ever lie to us because they would never lie to me, right? Wrong. A limited workforce out of the small population. Only a fraction of the small population would have been skilled laborers. Remember, half of these 3,000 people were kids. So it's not just 3,000 people. And then all 3,000 people are in the Wyoming's Construction Hall of Fame. Materials and transport. The late 1800s lacked modern construction equipment. Materials had to be shipped in by rail or transported by horse-drawn wagons. Horse-drawn wagons, bringing in the materials, significantly slowing the process down. This isn't looking so good for the mainstream narrative. So let's keep going. Where the AI, it actually seems like it's turning on the mainstream narrator now. Complexity of design, the Romanesque revival style architecture of the depot. It wasn't a simple wooden shack. You know, the construction of the time, the 1800s, Donkeys Incorporated, was just off building wooden huts. Abe Lincoln's birthhouse was, of course, a palace of wood and sticks. He was born in the finest architecture of the times. We were told this. We were told that the 1800s were filled with just pathetic construction. Wagons and horses, no skills, just outhouses and dirt roads.
Right.
If it rained, there'd be a bunch of potholes. Nobody's riding their wagon today. Cowboys and Indians. So what happened here? Why is there a palace train station in the middle of nowhere in Wyoming?
Right.
Are you new here? If you are, we have found the previous civilization. They are buried under our feet. They're buried right under our feet in so many countries. Millions of them. We have found them in the necropolises, in the catacombs, and under the churches. There was a previous civilization here, an extremely advanced group of people, and we see their construction still standing all over the USA. It's all over the world, and we are exposing it. We're exposing that the stories that we are told about these structures are completely made up. It features massive stonework, arched entryways, and intricate details that should have taken years, not months. Are you still on the fence? Let's keep going. It is highly improbable that such a structure was completed in just 1 year. With a shocking sentence right here at the bottom. It's an admission by their AI that the mainstream timeline of history once again fails to hold up under scrutiny. We are breaking the system. We are exposing it. And their AI, ChatGPT, is fully admitting it now. We are no longer alone. And we are no longer in the mindset of wondering if this is a possibility. We are now exposing that the history that we've all been told is a lie. It is a made-up story that is impossible when you ask simple questions. And then you go back to the architects and you wonder, who were these people really? If they didn't actually construct this place, who were these people? We will be getting into that today. But first, we need to stick the dagger into the story. I pointed out to the AI that there weren't any power tools until 1895, and I believe that it's on our side now, where it now just says, exactly. This is logistically impossible by any realistic standard. This does not add up. The narrative we are given defies logic. Manpower limitations.
So this is clever in what he did in asking these questions because they trust in technology. This is what they want humanity to trust in, this technology, this AI technology.
And construction capabilities of the era. Either the mainstream history is drastically off in its timeline, or with possibly the most shocking sentence it's ever given us. This structure, like many others, was simply already there, repurposed, and given a convenient date to fit the official story. Are we having fun yet? Do you like being right? Where are the blueprints to these buildings? You never see one.
Right.
Where are the construction records? They're always missing. What about the most important part? The detailed financial records. This isn't thousands of years ago, yet we never see it. Never. Instead, we get stories. We get fires that conveniently.
And again, when you look at the as they call vanilla skies, when you look at the skies, always whited out because they're hiding what was in the skies.
Erase records. We get wars that destroy the entire city, and we get excuses. We know at this point that these structures were found. They were repurposed and given a brand new official narrative to fit a controlled overall story. The same architectural styles exist worldwide, yet we are told that they were in no way connected with each other. Even if they had thousands of railroad workers just come out of nowhere to help construct this thing. Where are the records of this happening? Where are the records of these workers coming to help construct this stuff? Again, it's not thousands of years ago. Where are the records of the thousands of stonemasons, engineers, and workers, all just appearing in Cheyenne, Wyoming to get this thing done in a year? This never happened. It is incredible when you expose one structure from the old world, but it's another thing when the architect that they pinned to the structure gets fully exposed as a character pinned as the guy to the old world building. Because he wasn't just in Cheyenne in the 1800s. They tell us that he was all over the place, just knocking out all kinds of palaces. He was just riding the heck out of those donkeys. Every few hundred miles, just picking out a new random piece of land.
In the 1800s, this guy is listed in various states and cities across the country, across the United States, from East Coast to West Coast. How? And fast. How? According to the dates. How? Well, he keeps going into them.
And to build his next palace in a year with no materials, no power tools, no blueprints, no money, no construction workers, and in no time, this guy would just get train stations thrown together, and they last forever. Ride over to Portland, Maine, and knock out the first national bank just 1 year before the train station in 1884. And Henry Van Brunt, you, sir, you are under investigation today. Welcome to episode 118 of my lunch break. I hope you're all having a great day. And if you're new, welcome. Out small, and then as time goes on, you get better and better. Henry Van Brunt, the architect pinned to the train station, as well as so many other incredible old world structures in the USA, began studying at Harvard University, where he didn't even originally study architecture. And he never studied engineering or construction. Never. Designing massive depots, cathedrals, and civic buildings would require a deep knowledge of engineering, weight distribution, and advanced material science. And then he partnered with William Robert Ware. But again, neither were builders or stonemasons. So if this guy didn't have any engineering experience and relied on others to actually get this palace done in 1 year, then who actually had the knowledge? Who actually built these structures? Because we know that it wasn't him. Taking all of this into account, he just kicks his career off in 1867, being the architect of the first church, located in Boston, Massachusetts, where we know it's from the old world because after a disastrous fire in 1968,
all you got to do is go and search the Great Fire of, and you're going to find the Great Fire of damn near every city within the United States every major city, the Great Fire of and the years are all close to each other in the 1800s.
He built a new building.
There's always a fire with these buildings all the time. And some places that would really, really hit hard, like San Francisco, it looked like bombs were dropped on these buildings in the 1800s. When you look up the Great Fire of San Francisco and you look at the damage, look it up for yourself. You see.
And we can all see that they took this thing apart. The stained glass windows are gone. It's a total shell of itself at this point. Here's a picture of them putting the fire out. A demolition project, in my opinion. A great way to destroy the old world buildings and collect an insurance check at the same exact time. And for the very best part, and to give it all away. Suffering a devastating fire on March 29th, 1968, where the exact cause of the fire, of course, remains unclear. Nobody ever knows how these fires just ripped through these old world buildings. This happened in 1968, and they still have no idea. It's just a random ghost of the times. It's just a mystery forever. This isn't some remote village off in the woods. This is Boston in 1968, a major city. There are fire investigators, there are reporters, and detailed records for nearly everything that goes on. Fires in Boston, they don't just go undocumented, especially when they just completely destroy a significant historical building. No cause. We're just unsure. Oh well, just an accident, I guess. So that was Brunt's first project ever. Wait, did we forget to mention? This building also only took 1 year to complete. His very first project is a palace church, and they finished it in a year. And then his second project was a chapel in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And here's a picture of it. This one took him 15 years to build. Could you imagine? Of course not. This one was done in a year, from 1869 to 1870. This guy's 3 for 3 today already. We've shown 3 insane structures, all pinned to this Brunt guy. And all 3 of them were done in a year. Brunt's third project was the Adams Academy, now the Quincy Historical Society in Quincy, Massachusetts, where this one doesn't give us a start date. But we all know that he started his career in 1867 and finished this one in 1869, having 2 projects in 1867. And we see a clear pattern here of just knocking out palaces in a year. I'm just going to take a wild guess and say that this one also got done in a year, completing his first 3 buildings, not houses, not little tiny huts, but stone and granite buildings in just 1 year. No progression at all, just like we talked about. Starting his career off with massive palaces, knocking them out in a year. Just throwing palaces together in the 1800s. Because why not? Henry Van Brunt would just ride around on his local donkey with his chisel in his pocket, just asking who wanted a palace next. Snow would not matter to him, rain or shine. The palace will be done. I personally just watched them build a house across the street from me. It's a nice house, but it wasn't a palace, and it wasn't a stone church. It has vinyl siding and 2x4s. If it rained, they were not working. If it snowed, they were not working. And these people have power tools. They have shipping companies that just deliver things right to the door. They have blueprints. They have training. And it took them over a year to build a house. And it wasn't that big. Could you imagine riding on a donkey, carriages, and using outhouses with dirt roads?
But these are actual photos. These are photos that he has presented with his research, and with all the information that he presents is clear that there's been a mass deception. Just random people given the credit for buildings that were already here that have the same architecture all across the planet. All across the planet. And that architecture, you could read about that in Chronicles with the building of, in the Kings, and the Chronicles with the building of the temple and Solomon's house.
roads. If it rained, there's no way you're driving the donkey around because you got wood wheels. They're going to go in the potholes. It's going to be a mess. There's no power tools. You're just chiseling cathedrals together in 12 months or less. This is ridiculous. And no prior training with basically no people. No documented evidence of this even happening. And these are his first projects. So he gets done with these first 3 projects. And then this is his 4th one, a palace. And everybody here, if you've been here for a while, you know about the Kleksinski building in Chicago. It took 14 years to build. And that thing is a basic box. There's no stone, and they had power tools. We are told that between 1870 and 1877, this thing is done. The Memorial Hall at Harvard University. So why is he able to construct the first 3 palaces in just a year? And then he regresses. He becomes less efficient. And this is what we are told. Even though it's 7 years, that's still an insane timeline. I love using their AI against them because it's hilarious seeing their own system just totally expose their own narrative. How long would this take to build today? The fastest possible timeline if money and modern resources were unlimited. Today, it would take 4 to 7 years with modern robotics, CNC stone cutting, and 24/7 work shifts. No breaks, working all day, all night, 4 to 7 years. And it would still be extremely difficult with major cathedrals and stone structures still taking decades, even with modern tools. We are being lied to. We have been lied to. And these stupid stories are done, especially when we see that something really weird is going on here. On September 6th, 1956, a fire broke out in the tower of Harvard University's Memorial Hall, damaging it in 1956 and not completing the repair until the late 1970s. They're telling us that they took like 20 years just to fix it, when it only supposedly took them 7 years to build the entire thing with no power tools. Yet in the 1950s, we did have power tools. We had advancements in technology. The 7-year construction story is now exposed. Thank you to all of our badge members, all of our Patreon. 1870, we are told that he began the Memorial Hall, and the exact same year, he also began this project, the Weld Hall at Harvard University. And it's looking to me like Harvard just got a lot of old world buildings and pinned their own guy as the creator of them all, with illogical stories surrounding them. The Weld Hall, with a nice horse and wagon out front, and trees that look like they'd been there for decades. An established site that was found, all in my opinion, of course, juggling multiple projects at the same time. Projects that an architect could only dream of creating just one in their entire lifetime. Yet in the 1870s, Henry Van Brunt just knocked 2 of them out. The Weld Hall at Harvard was supposedly constructed between 1870 and 1872. 2 years and this was done. And he wasn't even fully paying attention to it because he has multiple palaces going up at the exact same time. This is easy stuff in the 1870s. This horse would get the stone to the site, no delays. Never a traffic jam back then. This undocumented horse is just hauling thousands of pounds of stone. This horse never even took a break because I forgot that horses in the 1870s, they didn't drink any water. They didn't need 10 to 18 gallons a day. This is a new thing, of course. Feeding the horses was never an issue back then. And weather conditions, forget it. They had the heated dirt roads of the past. The potholes allowed for great conditions for those wooden wheels. Just to haul massive amounts of stone to the site. Stabling and care for the 100+ horses that would be used. Why even bother? The mainstream narrative doesn't need to answer these kind of questions. Oh.
So you see, there's a lot of these lies with dates given in history.
They do? Yes, they do. They do need to answer these questions. We're not living in the 1900s anymore. We are able to think. Check these logistics out. To complete this structure in just 2 years, like we're being told, 2 million bricks, 6,500 trips with 40 to 50 horses dedicated to brick and stone hauling. 10 to 20 more horses for lumber and other materials. 10 to 15 horses for excavation and foundation work. 5 to 10 more horses for scaffolding and lifting heavier stones and bricks. And then backup horses, in case any horse ever got hurt or needed a rest, because they are horses after all.
So this is what AI is telling him what it would be like if this was really done by horses and such as the narrative is given.
And this was going on for all of these projects, not just this building. This is supposedly how it was done before the car in the 1800s. This is how it was for every single one of these projects. Yet I haven't heard one single mainstream history story where the horses are a part of the construction. There is no mention of how many horses. There is never a mention of the incredible effort it would take from all of the horses, the logistics, to get them properly fed, the amount of money it would cost to actually get them food, water, and shelter. This fact alone absolutely shreds the mainstream narrative, because when you look in,
those buildings were already there. They were founded. They were found. That's why it says founded on them. The majority of them say founded. They don't say built. Only when they really pushing the lie.
into these fake stories, you're going to see they had financial constraints, supposedly, with the Adams Academy that we talked about, saying, oh no, please build this one on the same site that John Hancock's house burned to the ground on. And please, do it for under $30,000, not $36,000, because we can't afford that. This is nonsense, because the amount of money it would have costed them for the horses alone, for the weld hall in comparison, for 100 horses would have been projected around $1,000 to $1,500 per month. And this is the same for every one of these projects. You're going to need horses, meaning it would be $12,000 to $18,000 a year for the horses alone. So them saying that their budget was $30,000 for the Adams Academy is a complete lie. And it's totally ignoring actual logistics. This is the one where we said it was 1 year. Brunt's third project was the Adams Academy. Now the Quincy Historical Society in Quincy, Massachusetts, where this one doesn't give us a start date. But we all know that he started his career in 1867 and finished this one in 1869, having two projects in 1867. And we see a clear pattern here of just knocking out palaces in a year. I'm just going to take a wild guess and say that this one also got done in a year. But if it was any longer than that, say 2 years, then the price for the horses would have been in the range of $24,000 to $36,000 just for the upkeep on the horses alone. And we haven't even gotten to the cost of the materials yet. As you can see, Henry Van Brunt is currently pinned to many structures that are from the old world, with 9 of them. 9 being constructed in a single year, all pinned to the same master architect of the 1800s, all thrown together between 1867 and 1885, all the way from Wyoming to Boston, thousands of miles apart. Take a train if you'd like, but they only went 30 miles an hour. And they didn't have connections the way that we do today. Constant delays in the 1800s for the trains, and hardly any time for actually working. But he was able to knock out projects in Maine and Wyoming, no problem, in less than a year. No telephones, just sending letters from Boston to Wyoming and hoping they'd get there within a month. No documents provided. Case closed. This narrative is done. The mainstream history is story hour for adults. The Union Pacific Passenger Station, the Memorial Hall, the Adams Academy, 9 structures completed in a single year, pinned to the same exact guy. No blueprints, no construction photos, no records of thousands of workers or hundreds of horses, just stories. Stories that we all believed until now. The logistics don't work. The timelines don't add up. The narrative collapses under its own weight. And it's not just one building. It is all of them. The train stations, the cathedrals, the mansions and monuments, all from a time we're told was filled with dirt roads, outhouses, and candlelights. Are we really supposed to believe that these people built massive structures with no power tools and no money and no real resources, all in the 1800s? Or is the truth that these structures were already here, built by a previous civilization, one that knew how to move stone? They fully understood how to construct palaces, and they did it all over the world. A civilization that knew how to build things that last forever. A civilization that's been erased from our history. You can see it, the patterns, the fires, the missing records, the impossible stories they tell us. This isn't a coincidence. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thank you to everyone who supports this channel. I'll be back next Saturday with so much more.
Yeah, so that's the channel, my lunch break. I'll leave the link in the description. Dope channel, got a lot of really good episodes with a lot of good information. So that's it for tonight. By the grace of the Lord, be able to see y'all next weekend. Gonna change it up and come with something different and continue with sharing of information and putting the pieces of this puzzle together. So with that, I say peace, Godspeed. Thank you for tuning in, those that tuned in, everybody that came and spent their time here. If you believe, praise God. If you don't, praise God, you have your liberty. All I'm doing is presenting information. With that, salute, peace. As always, God time.